Yep. All right. So, in keeping with our conversation about COVID and kind of the fallout, as well as kind of the journey that people have had during this pandemic, I thought it was very apropos to speak to Miss Peg, nurse practitioner extraordinaire, Peg Kanowski, who was basically on the front lines during this whole time, as well as this educator, advocate, not only personally, I know for me, the health community, but also on social media. So we appreciate that. Now, I am going to say a disclaimer. The both of us do work for the same health system. We are not here as a representative of the health system. We're just here as longtime friends and sisters. Long time. Very long time. So there's so many layers of this for you, Peg. I don't even know where to begin. But after hearing Lisa's story, being kind of the first case in Springfield, did you have a sense, like the first days that this started coming out on the news, as a healthcare provider, were you kind of like, oh shit? Or were you kind of like, oh no, this isn't going to be that bad? Like, did you have that sense?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. It took me back to the 1990s when HIV hit. Mm-hmm. There was the same level of fear in the community, fear with healthcare providers, and I saw that. I mean, it's funny, when I think about it, we had one of the first early suspected cases came in, and nobody wanted to go see him. Mm-hmm. And they turned to me and another nurse about my age and said, "You don't have kids, you need to go." And I'm like, I have kids? I have 3 kids, but I'm like, I came home and told Eric, it's like, I have never felt so disposable in my entire career, because they wanted us to take one for the team because they were all moms with little kids. And I get it. And we went.
And everybody was scared.
Yes. And that first case ended up not even being COVID, but.
So what was that like?
Yeah.
Like were you putting on?
We didn't have it. Seriously, we were at Express Care. Right. I left the ER to go to this nice, gentle Express Care to lead towards retirement, right? So we didn't have full PPE. And when that patient came in, that was pre any diagnosed case in the U.S., but it was in the news. And we tried to throw it together, and everything we had was expired, honestly, because we don't do isolation cases at Express Care. So things changed quickly after that case, and long before Lisa was the first local case. So,
and you guys had just come off kind of a pretty busy flu season.
One of the worst flu seasons in the last decade, honestly. We were exhausted. We were seeing 100 to 150 patients a day at each Express Care. And we watched those numbers trend down right as COVID started to take off. And I joked on social media, I'm like, yay, flu season's getting over just in time for COVID.
Right.
And everybody was like, oh, shush your mouth, but that's exactly how it played out. We never really got a break from that.
And for you guys, and I don't know if anybody had experience with the respiratory clinic, I'm wearing my respiratory clinic shirt. You guys were very integral in the fact that you were the front line. A lot of cases and suspected cases were diverted to you to keep those people out of the ER and the hospital.
Before that happened, we were sitting ducks because patients with respiratory symptoms were flooding Express Cares, flooding primary care, flooding the emergency room, and there was no control over that. Right. And everybody felt like we were sitting ducks. So the creation of the respiratory clinic allowed for that door screening process to start, and then all those patients got directed towards 6th Street.
So how did you feel about that at first? Like you said, you're in this position where we've had a busy flu season. I'm here because I do love my job and I love to work, but I really don't want that stress level that I used to have.
No,
how was that?
It was through the roof.
Yeah.
It was through the roof. I mean, there was, just to, like I mentioned earlier, it's like I spent 28 years of my career in the emergency room, but knew I was getting too old for that environment. So made the shift to Express Care. I'm thinking I'm going to coast, downhill and use my expertise elsewhere. And then COVID hits. And then we became the epicenter for COVID testing and screening. And that was a lot. That was a lot. And I'm one of those people that I can't stand to not know something. So It was a lot of sleepless nights reading every article or everything in print that I could get a hold of, texting certain friends like Dr. Ritchie at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. We had a lot of late night conversations because there was not a lot of sleep going on in the early days. But watching that respiratory clinic come up in a matter of days was short of miraculous. That was incredible. And the worst part in the early days, do you remember we had like the strict criteria and the county only had about 10 tests a day to give out. So it's like people had to meet the strict criteria to even get a test. There were no tests available. And that was horrible. There were no tests available. There were no treatment options to give patients. It's kind of like, yeah, you might have it. Stay home, see how you do. You know what I mean? That was nerve-wracking, not being able to help them.
Or give them information that...
Because we didn't have it.
We didn't know.
We didn't have it. We absolutely didn't have it.
At some point, let me ask you, because you guys were this epicenter, you were putting yourself at risk, your own health as well as others. Did you ever think about saying, you know, maybe now is a good time to not do this?
Probably on a daily basis.
Okay.
But this is what I signed up for. Not really what I signed up for, but sometimes when things like this happen, you're like, maybe this is why God put me here. You know, maybe I was supposed to be here to help with this. So I'm never going to be one to run away from stuff like that. We did lose some staff. There were some staff that decided that it just wasn't worth it. And kudos to them for being able to, you know. And then I felt bad for some of our younger providers that are brand new. Hello, welcome to healthcare. You know, what a time to come in. And I think about that with the med students and the residents too. They're never going to forget this. But yeah, there were many times you think this is kind of crazy, and not so much for work or my own personal safety, but my family.
Well, because that's the different layer for you. So you didn't want to put your family at risk. You have kids that are all over the place. You know, Chicago, Alaska, and
UK.
daughter and grandkids in the UK. And so they're on super duper lockdown.
Can't even get to them if I
you
wanted to.
can't even get to them. So there's that stress and anxiety.
It's an awful feeling as a parent to know that if something happened, I couldn't get there no matter what, that they're basically on their own. That's a bad feeling. Yeah, but Eric, you know, my husband has health issues. Not crazy. He's okay. He'd be mad if I said otherwise. But you know, you worry about bringing that home to him too. And he's a police officer, so he's still out there working in it. And I remember the stress in the beginning. I would get a little frustrated with him because every night before he left for work, I'll try not to die. And I'm like, okay, I'm out there taking care of COVID patients, but you're going to try not to die. But he was scared. He knew he was getting exposed in the public too, and there was nothing either one of us could do about it.
Was it hard, though, sometimes listening to folks who were working from home? Their risk was pretty low, although I think we all had anxiety about this virus. And here are the two of you. You know, you didn't necessarily get a break. You didn't get to stay home and work at home or
there was some jealousy.
Yeah. How was that?
There was some jealousy for sure. And, you know, we joked about it a lot. It's like, boy, 2 weeks of furlough sounds pretty good right now. Are you sure you don't have a cough? Sure you don't have a fever? You know, we were tired. We were for sure tired. And it was for sure frustrating. And, you know, I kept thinking about a meme that was on the internet that talks about how, you know, during World War II, we were sending people off to war. You're being asked to sit on your couch. And there was a lot of complaining about it.
I know.
A lot of complaining about it, but we saved a lot of lives by doing that. I mean, the lockdowns have been terrible for everybody, but we saved a lot of lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, but you guys saved a lot of lives just in the aspect of being at the respiratory clinic in that epicenter. You guys did a lot, you know, you're doing infusions, you're doing treatments. People had a safe place to call and go if they got sicker instead of, I mean, I was one of those people. I think when I got sick, I was like texting you like every day, like, Peg.
It's the worst.
Is this
when
okay?
Your friends get sick. It's the worst.
Well,
but we were the only show in town.
You guys were the only show in town.
We were the only show in town to be seen if you were COVID positive or symptomatic.
And you guys had the experience and the knowledge that I think other people didn't have. But how did you keep up with that?
It was impossible. I mean, like I said, that's probably what caused me the most stress and fatigue was the loss of sleep, because I was trying to read everything I could. And my experience is not unique. I know all of my co-providers were in the same boat. I don't think any of us slept well through the whole thing. It's just reading and trying to share information. And, you know, we got great support from our administrative docs who also, I think the coolest thing about this was watching Memorial St. John's Springfield Clinic, the
those
health department come together. And we were all trying to be on the same page with all the information that we put out there and with the treatment regimens and stuff like that. So, but it was hard because in the beginning we had nothing.
Yeah.
And then as things evolved, I think the most exhausting thing was it changed every week. Our PPE guidelines changed every week. Our testing grid changed every week. The treatment, if any, that we could offer changed every week. And that part was exhausting. Yeah.
So do you sleep now?
I was, but the numbers are starting to go back up.
Okay.
So I've noticed the last few nights my brain doesn't shut off again. Yeah.
Because you're vaccinated.
Yes.
I'm vaccinated
Yay,
as well.
we can hug.
Vaccine friends. I keep telling people, y'all get some friends with the
know.
vaccine. Let me tell you,
I
it's
know.
a game changer.
Today is 2 weeks since my parents got their second shot. So after this, I am going out and the mask is coming off. I am hugging them. I am kissing them. I cannot tell you what a relief that is. 84 years old. So
Right. I mean, and it's, you know, I think we sometimes forget that our providers are going through that with their families and their friends and things like that. So we've got the vaccine, so you still don't feel like you can be at ease. Like, can you take that deep breath or say,
I can.
we're on the other side?
I can. And I see the other side coming. I see it within sights, but the vaccine hesitancy is very scary. There's just, I don't know when people stop trusting science. I don't know when they started thinking it was political, but it's our only way out. Just like polio, just like smallpox, it is our only way out.
Measles, so many.
This is going to sound, I mean, this is the point I'm at. What I tell people now is get your shot, get all your loved ones shot, because it's becoming the wild, wild west.
Right.
People are over the lockdowns.
Right.
They're over it, and it's going to get crazy out there because COVID's not gone.
No.
And we're seeing that. You know, I think Sangamon County had 49 new cases yesterday.
Yeah, I think we're up to 7.3%.
Yeah, we jumped, and we were down at 2.8.
I think the freeze had a lot to do with that too. We had that cold weather.
Oh, I think so too. I think so too. But I think I totally get it economically. I want the world open too. You know, my son up in Chicago, dear Lord, he's been online classes with a performing arts school. That's not been ideal. I know the businesses are suffering and stuff, but as we reopen, if you're not vaccinated, COVID's coming for you. That's kind of my line. It's like if you either get the shot or you're going to get COVID.
Right,
Because it's
either
still
one.
out there looking for victims.
So for you, given this past year, how do you feel like you've kind of changed? Maybe not even just as a provider, but just as
It's
a mom
weird.
and grandma and
Oh, I value that family time so much more. It's kind of like being on a diet and being told you can't have a certain food. When you have 3 beautiful grandchildren,
you're like,
one you haven't even met, and you're
Right.
told you can't go see them, you
Right.
want to go that much more. You know what I mean? And it really puts the focus on family. Professionally, in a way, it's been energizing because I know this is a historic event in my career that I'm not going to forget. And my career has spanned AIDS, bird flu, you know, SARS, H1N1, all those, and I've never seen anything like this. This is our Spanish flu. This is our 1918 flu, and I just know I'm never going to be a part of something like this again because hopefully I'll get to retire before it happens again. So in that way, it's somewhat energizing, but it's exhausting at the same time.
do you feel that you were properly valued and appreciated during this time frame? Because I get different stories from different healthcare people.
You know, we were, I feel like our organization did everything it could to get us the proper PPE. You know, I never went without a gown or a mask. We learned some things in the beginning. We were, you know, in the beginning we were sharing those N100s and they were being washed every night and stuff. That finally, you know, that went away and we each got our own, and that was a great feeling. It was a lot to crank through there. I think it's been difficult as the numbers go down because now it's like, oh wow, look at the budget. We've lost a lot of revenue over this past year, and now that's being they're trying to make that up.
Sure.
And I totally get that.
Yeah, there's been hospitals that are
But
closing.
COVID has changed things.
Right.
I think people now know, oh, I don't have to run in there for this stub toe because it's going to heal on its own. They're not rushing off to the clinics because they don't want to get COVID. And we still have respiratory symptoms coming in. So You know, I use my dad as an example. Dad blew off his abdominal aneurysm screening. I was sure for the last few weeks that he was in atrial fib and his blood pressure was through the roof, and he wouldn't go till he got that second shot. I mean, there's so much hesitation to go right now, and we're still feeling that Express Cares. Our numbers are
collateral
not
damage
where they were before COVID, and I think it's going to be a couple years before they get back, honestly.
I remember we were kind of going through some numbers, and someone made the comment that the chemo infusion rooms were empty. Because there weren't as many diagnosed cancers because people weren't getting their screening. And so you're like, where are these people?
Yeah, it's like cancer's not gone. So it's kind of scary.
It's very scary.
Yeah.
Now, what about just from the community? Do you feel like you were valued and appreciated for what you did? Or you think people just didn't understand?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Even in our own community, I think I have to say yes. One of the things that I did, and it doesn't make me special. I think a lot of people did the same thing.
Yeah,
but
you're special.
No, I'm special. But I, for the first time, made my social media accounts public.
Yes.
Because I tried to share testing sites, testing information, statistical numbers. Now it's vaccination. And I made those public so that could be shared. And then that led to a lot of private Facebook messages with questions, which I was fine with. But I mean, it was every day.
Yeah.
Every day. And then when you live in a smaller community like this, there were people that would reach out, and like I said, I don't have a problem with that at all. I don't care how tired I was. I didn't have a problem with that because I wanted to help. But then you also see friends and neighbors not following guidelines, maybe not staying home when they're supposed to be quarantined, and it's hard not to be the COVID police.
It is, but it's almost a slap in the face,
Yes.
I think, to a lot of people that are doing
Or you have a long-time friend, and then on social media they say there's trackers in the vaccine, and it's going to alter your DNA, and it's all controlled by the government, and you're just, I roll.
Yeah. Sometimes you just have to take a deep breath and let it go.
And you walk away because you're going to lose a friend if you argue, and it's not worth losing friendships.
That's happened a lot, though.
Yeah.
And some friendships I've had to let go. I mean, there's some things that are just not negotiable.
It's crazy. My catchphrase has been that COVID brought out the ugly.
Oh,
and COVID really did bring out the ugly. Lisa hit on it a little bit. And I know that the first couple of kids out here in Sherman that were diagnosed, her parents got some nasty phone calls. And it was from other parents that were upset that they had to quarantine. Because of this contact. And the one mom made the comment. She's like, you really find out who your friends are. And I'm like, are they forgetting that somebody gave your kids COVID? Your kids didn't invent COVID and then spread it to the community. You know what I mean?
And nobody's perfect. I think people can still be very well-meaning and follow most of the guidelines, but your bubble's not perfect. I think we've definitely learned that.
Well, and what I learned very quickly is, especially as testing got more available and all these other places were testing, but they didn't get the follow-up care and the teaching that we were given at South 6th Street, we did a really good job.
Yeah,
because you would talk to those people later. Sometimes, like, you'd have one that tested at Walgreens and their symptoms were getting worse, so they'd call the respiratory clinic. They knew nothing. They didn't know they were supposed to isolate like this. They didn't know their family was supposed to quarantine. They didn't have any of that information.
Or even things that you could do to help with your symptomatology. Because you were very integral in starting.
Took a long time.
No, but it was a great protocol for people once they're positive to do the melatonin, the vitamin D, the zinc, all these things.
That part frustrated me. I'm not going to lie, because I'm not a physician, and I think nursing background approaches things differently, and physicians want solid clinical trials, with good evidence-based medicine. Well, we're going to have that 2 years after COVID has ravaged the community. It's not going to come now. So it was really hard to get some of those alternative therapies pushed through, but we did it the right way. They brought together infectious disease with SIU, St. John's, and again, tried to have us all on the same page. So I think it was done correctly, but I got pushback on some of the things that I wanted to do because I love steroids. I wanted everybody to have steroids.
Well, I'm telling you, those steroids changed
the
trajectory of my course, because I think if I would not have started those, I would have been at least in the emergency room. if not,
I really could feel that because we were at that time doing so many follow-up phone calls. And so the people that we would give medications to, like steroids, we would call them and, oh my God, they were turned around in 24 to 48 hours.
Well,
and
it's
I
like
do
I can
think
breathe.
it kept people out of the hospital. I really, really do.
Right. Because
Yeah.
I would imagine it would have to be hard. I mean, I'm a physician, for God's sakes, and I was still scared.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I really think about those people who don't have that background. I couldn't imagine sitting
It's a
there
very
feeling like
fear-inducing
that.
illness, you know?
And you never got it.
No. Isn't that crazy? I don't know if I was 30 years in the ER and everything I'd been exposed to. Maybe I have some secret T-cell immunity or something. But yeah, I mean, Eric has never had it. Nobody else in my family has had it. We had 14 people at the clinic eventually get it. Some very, very ill. And I didn't get it. I mean, and I don't understand that because we were doing all those phone calls, you know? So during that time period, I was back in this room doing the phone screenings and stuff. And I tend to be the mom of the department sometimes. And there was a recliner chair in there. And I called it the therapy chair because almost once an hour, somebody was coming in and griping about something to that chair. Because it was, like I said, it was an exhausting process. But almost every person that tested positive had been in that therapy chair, and I didn't get it.
Right.
You know, and I don't know how. And then Peyton got it up in Chicago last November.
And that's scary.
Oh, that was awful. That was absolutely awful because he's off student camp. He's off campus living. He's in Wrigleyville up there. So when he got it, or when he got sick, he called the school, who was supposed to test all their students for free, and was told, you can't come to campus, you have symptoms. So here's this kid with nowhere to go. They referred him to like CVS. So I started looking, and it so happens that the week that he got sick, Chicago was on a complete, that week they had no tests available anywhere. And then his fever went up, his pulse ox started to drop, and I'm like, I'm coming to get you. So I drove to Chicago and got him. I drove him all the way home with a duckbill N95
Yeah, I was about to say, how did
I
you
have
do?
never looked hotter. He was in the back seat. We had a
right.
vapor barrier up between us, and I had the back. He had an N95 on, and I had the back window of the SUV cracked so that we had that
circulating
negative
air.
airflow going in our vehicle, right? And then he isolated to his room. He was such a champ through it, and I started him on the steroid inhaler and the albuterol inhaler. I didn't have to give him the oral steroids, and he turned around within a few days and stuff. And Eric and I never got it.
Wow.
I don't know how, but he was so good. Like his bedroom up there, it's like a 2-foot walk to his bathroom, and he would put an N95 on just to come out to the bathroom. I mean, he did not want me and Dad to get it.
Right.
But his poor roommates then dropped like flies. It ended up one of them had traveled, and I think he brought it
home.
back to the house. But his roommates then started dropping. Those poor kids drove to Wisconsin twice to try and get tested and got turned away each time. So they never got tested. I'm sure they all had it, and they never got tested.
Because I think the hard part is, I don't want to get sick, and it was horrible. But at the same time, to know that I made somebody else sick was just unbearable.
Yes.
I mean, I think
because what if? Then you're what if they don't make it, or what if they wind up in ICU? That's how we were with our parents. You know, we didn't go near them, and my dad lost his baby brother during this. Couldn't even go hug on him. So there's at one point, I don't know if you remember seeing the pictures on Facebook, but Peyton and I, it was right after Uncle Ron had passed away, Peyton and I actually put on those moon suits.
I do remember
I looked like that dude from Big Hero 6.
No, I thought you looked like Willy Wonka. Remember TV Mike in the white suit? That's who I thought you looked like.
I put it all on just so I could go hug my dad because he was heartbroken. That was the worst, but if I took it to them, and my dad was scared of me because I worked at the respiratory clinic. He knew that I could be a vector of disease, and he was scared to have me come around. So I would take groceries and hang them on the mailbox at the end of the lane, and they would stand outside and wave, and it was so heartbreaking.
But I think that's the other thing that, like you said, COVID kind of brought out the ugly. I've been very surprised the lack of social responsibility. That is so easy, right? Yeah. So I get, okay, maybe I don't want to wear a mask, or I'm not really truly believing what's going on, but really wearing the mask and washing your hands in the grand scheme of things is not a huge sacrifice, I believe. But the amount of social responsibility
Yeah.
I think, that I've seen and not seen has been.
And you know what's sad? It hasn't changed
No.
because I read that George Bush actually had read The Great Influenza, the textbook that was written about the 1918 influenza. And so I started listening to it on an audiobook. Same thing.
Same thing.
People fought the mask. People fought the lockdowns. The saloons were the last thing to close. I mean, it's like, wow, we have not grown at all. 100 years later, and we have not grown at all. Human behavior is still the same.
Yeah.
And because of that, here's a note, it took 3 years to beat that flu, and I don't want to do that with COVID.
Right. No, I get you. I'm so ready to get back to, seeing friends and music and going, traveling.
I want Peyton to perform.
Yeah.
Oh.
He has these great little short videos.
Oh my gosh.
Too, if you guys ever get a chance.
I think it's been, well, I tell you, he got a part in, he's a sophomore this year, so it was into freshman year that COVID hit, and he got a part in the musical at the school, and it was to air the weekend that the world went on lockdown. So the school, we couldn't go, parents couldn't go, but the school let them perform for one night only,
Right.
and all the student body came, and Peyton said that was the most fun he's ever had performing, and I got to see a video that I can't air because of copyright and stuff, but it was amazing, and the crowd was so into it, and that was very good for him, and he said it was a life-changing moment.
Wow.
But then, he came home after that, and we thought, it's just going to be for a while, so we left half of his stuff in his dorm room. I think I went and got him on a Tuesday and brought him home. Email came out Saturday morning, you got to be out Sunday by 5 p.m. We're locking down the whole campus. So Eric and Peyton went up in the cloak of darkness, because Eric works nights. So they went up in the cloak of darkness 11 o'clock at night and emptied out his dormitory apartment and came home so they wouldn't see other people and stuff too. But and Chicago was a ghost town.
Right.
No vehicles on the road. I mean, it was like something out of the movies.
Right. But we're out on the other end.
Yes. We're getting there.
So if you, looking back, would there be anything you would do differently?
I don't know how we would. There's a lot of stuff that gets talked about, but it's like, honestly, how could anyone have handled this perfectly? Because this is a novel virus that we've never faced before. No matter who is in administration or who is practicing medicine, mistakes were going to be made. And unfortunately, that's how we learn. But I think, no, because it's all retrospect. I was going to say in the beginning, do I wish we weren't sharing masks? Do I wish we didn't have all those bodies crammed into South 6th Street, which probably led to us having an outbreak?
Yeah, right.
But we didn't know that at the time. So no, I can't really think of anything major we would change.
Yeah.
I think we did the best we could with what we knew.
With each day, the information you have, you make the best decision. I will speak for the community as a whole and say thank you.
No.
Right, because like you said, your social media was just like on point, giving people the proper education, which I think is so important. But just even your work at the respiratory clinic was just like bar none. So I appreciate you.
Thank you.
And, I'll be honest, some of those people that did make maybe negative comments about the virus or not appreciating your work, I kind of wanted to throat punch them. So
because there were comments.
There were. And I was just like, oh my gosh. But I get
And
it.
before I made it public, I might have been
Right.
a little
Right.
snarkier with my
Right.
response, but I
Right.
tried very hard to be politically
Right.
correct because
There's only so
knowledge
much
is
you can do.
power. And I felt like
Right.
all I could offer was to
Right.
just keep
That's
trying to
all you can
offer
do.
knowledge.
So
Yeah.
I appreciate that,
Thanks.
though. I do.
Thanks.
I do.
Thanks.
So thank you for sharing your experience, because you were definitely on the cusp and front lines of what was going on in our community. So
Yeah, well, thanks.
I
Go to the
appreciate your
express
hard work.
care. It'll be easier than the ER. I'm still, maybe I could do that different. No.
right. No, I get you, and I hope you do get some time off.
Yeah,
I do hope
yeah.
you get to sleep
Yeah.
and get some
We're getting there.
relaxation.
We're getting there. I don't like seeing the numbers pop, but I love seeing the vaccination numbers go up. And you can already feel it. You can already feel it.
Yeah.
That it's making a difference. So
Get your vaccine.
Yeah, get your loved ones vaccinated.
I've really, and it's interesting because, all the websites, and I get it's hard to navigate, but most of my friends who I think can't navigate it,
Yeah.
I sign them all up for vaccines.
Yeah, I know. I love
like,
that.
hey.
And I'm like, okay, there were some openings there.
Yeah.
Nikki's got her
No,
computer
I
up
did.
again.
I was just like, hey, what are you doing Tuesday at 11:30?
Yes.
I got a vaccine
Yeah, how
for
many
you.
emails did you get? 'Cause you said you just kept your email up.
I kept my email up, and it was like ding, 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 ding. Because I really, for like you said, to get back to some normalcy and having vaccinated group of friends is really important. And I'm going to be selfish. I want to have my birthday party this year.
Yes.
Get that vaccine and get that virus
gosh.
down. Anyway.
For sure.
But I appreciate you. I drank all my mimosa while we were talking.
I've been too busy talking. It's a problem with me.
Appreciate you.
I appreciate you, friend.
Thank
oh my
you.
gosh. And what I appreciate the most about COVID is these renewed friendships, because we didn't get to spend much time together.
I know.
And unfortunately through COVID we got thrown back together. It's fortunately, but yeah.
And that's what I've been trying to do, is to concentrate, okay, what are some good things that did
oh my gosh.
come out of this?
I think the relationship with the primary care providers that came to help us and Express Care is better. You know what I mean? Before, sometimes I think they would question what we did, and now they know us personally because they hung out at the respiratory clinic with us. So I feel like that relationship has grown exponentially, and I love it. And I love, like I said, I loved seeing the cooperation between the healthcare centers here in town too. I think that was great.
Yeah.
I think that was
There were
great.
some good things.
Yeah.
There were definitely some good things. So.
Yeah.
And hopefully more good things to come.
Get your vaccine. Yeah, get your vax. Vax up.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
See y'all later.
Peace out.